From early morning, Ashley had a headache. It felt like someone was pounding from the inside with a hammer, trying to get out. She sat in the kitchen, her hands wrapped around a cold teacup, staring out the window at the grey February landscape. How did I get here? She thought, unable to find any peace. Just 3 years ago, she was happy, or at least she thought she was. The wedding with Mark, a handsome and self-assured man, the job at a prestigious company, plans for the future. Who would have known that beneath the mask of a successful businessman lurked a person with unbridled greed? The sound of the front door opening pulled Ashley from her thoughts. Mark was home earlier than usual, and from his footsteps, she knew he was furious. "You're still here?" His voice was harsh, almost cutting. Ashley slowly raised her eyes. Mark stood in the doorway, his tie crooked, his hair messy, and his eyes burning with rage. "This is my home," she replied softly, trying to sound calm. "Yours?" He let out a short, scoffing laugh. "After everything you've done, you still have the audacity to call this your home?" Ashley gripped the teacup so hard her knuckles turned white. His unfair accusation seemed even more absurd to her. This apartment had been left to her by her grandmother, Sarah. Every corner held memories of her childhood, of warm evenings with a book by the window, of the smell of her grandmother's pies. "I didn't cheat on you, Mark," she repeated for the 100th time. "Those messages are just work-related." "Work?" He strode to the table and slammed his briefcase down. "Chris is working on an international project. They have a time difference." Ashley felt a knot of despair tighten in her throat. "Right, and that's why he calls you sweetheart." Mark leaned over her, his hands on the table. He smelled of alcohol and another woman's perfume. The bitter irony of the situation was not lost on Ashley. "It's a friendly nickname. We've known each other for 10 years since school." She tried to stand up, but Mark shoved her roughly back into the chair. "Sit down," he shouted. "I'm not finished yet." Ashley's heart hammered in her chest. In their 3 years of marriage, she'd learned to recognize the dangerous signs, the twitching of his lips, the pulsing vein in his temple, that particular glint in his eyes. Today, it all seemed worse than usual. "Mark, you're drunk," she said cautiously. "Let's talk when—" "I'm completely sober," he yelled, sweeping the cup off the table. The porcelain shattered on the floor, scattering drops of brown tea across the light linoleum. "Sober enough to understand that my wife—" That word hit Ashley like a slap. Hot tears welled in her eyes, but she held them back. Crying now meant giving him more power. "Don't you dare call me that!" Her voice trembled, but a steely edge had appeared in it. "Ever!" "And what should I call you?" Mark snatched her phone from the edge of the table. "Maybe I should show these messages to your mother. Let her find out what kind of daughter she raised." Ashley instinctively reached for the phone, but Mark swiftly pulled it away. "Oh, are you scared? So there is something to hide." "Give me my phone back," Ashley commanded, getting up. "You have no right." "I have the right to know what you're doing behind my back," Mark shouted, waving the phone. 3 years, his voice cracked. "For 3 years I've worked my tail off so we could live well. This apartment is mine. I work just as hard as you do. I've covered half of your debts with my money." "Money, money," Mark mimicked. "Your problem is you measure everything in money. What about loyalty, respect?" A bitter smile twisted Ashley's lips. "Working late, coming back after midnight with a glazed look in your eyes." "Don't talk to me about loyalty," she said in a low voice. "But not you." Mark paused for a moment, then his face contorted with rage. "Oh, I get it now," he roared. "Now you're accusing me. Typical female tactic. The best defense is a good offense." He threw the phone onto the couch and suddenly grabbed her shoulders, squeezing hard. "I don't want to see you in this house anymore." Ashley felt something break inside her, but not from fear, from relief, as if a weight she'd been carrying for all those years had finally fallen from her shoulders. "Mark," she smiled for the first time all night. It clearly unnerved him. "You forgot that the apartment was left to me by my grandmother. If anyone's leaving, it's you." For a moment, Mark was stunned, his grip loosened, but then his face twisted with rage again. "I don't care." he snarled. Documents can be changed. I have contacts, money. Do you think the court will side with a cheating wife? Try it. Ashley wrenched herself from his grip. I have recordings of your threats. I have witnesses to your infidelities. And yes, I have my own contacts too. Inside she was trembling, but her voice remained firm. 3 years of humiliation, manipulation, and fear were over. She wasn't afraid of him anymore. Mark breathed heavily, seething with anger. You're going to regret this. No, Ashley shook her head. The only thing I regret is not doing this sooner. Mark's face hardened, but she ignored him as she walked past him and headed for the bedroom. There, in the top drawer of her dresser, were the apartment documents she had carefully hidden 6 months earlier when she had first noticed her husband's strange questions about the inheritance. Mark stormed into the room behind her, but Ashley already had the folder with the documents in her hands. What are you doing? His voice was suspiciously low. Getting ready for our separation, she replied calmly, hugging the folder to her chest. I'm filing for divorce, Mark. This is final. Wow. He moved toward her but stopped when he noticed Ashley turning on the voice recorder on the phone she'd pulled from her pocket. I wouldn't advise it, she warned. Any act of violence will only complicate your situation. Mark stood frozen, breathing heavily. Something new, confusion and fear flickered in his eyes. He was used to the quiet, submissive Ashley who tolerated his whims, forgave his infidelities, and silently endured his humiliations. This new woman, determined and with a cold gaze, was a complete stranger to him. You can't do this to me. His tone suddenly changed, becoming almost pleading. We're a family. Ashley smiled bitterly. Family is love, support, respect. Where has any of that been for the last 3 years? Mark ran a hand through his hair, his shoulders slumping. Ashley, I was just jealous because I love you. He took a step toward her. Let's forget all this. Let's start over. A familiar tactic. First screaming and threats, then repentance and promises. A vicious cycle they'd been trapped in for more than a year. No, Mark, Ashley said firmly. This time is different. I'm tired. Tired of your accusations, of the constant control, of you coming home drunk and smelling of another woman's perfume. Ashley, I swear. Don't! She held up her hand, stopping the torrent of promises. I decided a long time ago. You can stay tonight, but tomorrow I want you gone. Gone? Mark asked, and his face twisted with rage again. I'm not going anywhere. This house is as much mine as it is yours. No, it's not. Ashley shook her head. The apartment is completely in my name. We didn't register it as community property. Remember, you insisted on that yourself when you thought you could have your contacts get it changed to your name. Mark went pale. He had indeed tried to pull that stunt last year, not knowing that Ashley had already discovered his plans. You, he choked on rage. You planned all this. No, Mark, Ashley replied wearily. I just stopped turning a blind eye to the obvious. Your infidelities, your manipulations, your lies. She walked past her motionless husband and returned to the kitchen. Her hands were trembling slightly, but inside she felt a strange calm. The decision had been made. There was no going back. Mark followed her, walking heavily like a wounded beast. Ashley knelt to pick up the fragments of the broken cup and started when he sank heavily into a chair. You know what? His voice was surprisingly quiet. You're right. I'll get my things and go. He looked up at her. But remember, this isn't the end. Ashley straightened up, holding the fragments in her hands as sharp as their relationship had been in recent months. For me, it is the end, she said, emptying the fragments into the trash can. I'm not afraid of you anymore, Mark. He gave her a long, evaluating look, then slowly stood up. Fine, I'll spend the night in the living room. I'll pick up my things tomorrow. Ashley felt a prick of disbelief that everything had been resolved so easily. Too easily. Mark never gave up without a fight. An alarm went off somewhere deep in her heart, but she tried to push the bad premonitions away. The night was endless. Ashley lay in bed, listening to sounds coming from the living room. Mark walked around the apartment for a long time, muttering something, making several phone calls. Around 2 a.m., everything went quiet, but sleep wouldn't come. She thought about how her life had changed in these 3 years, how Mark had slowly, step by step, taken over her existence, controlling her spending, checking her phone, getting furious if she went out alone, and not even tolerating it when she dared to raise her voice. Never again, Ashley swore to herself, staring into the darkness on the ceiling. Morning arrived suddenly. She'd finally fallen asleep toward dawn. The winter sun's rays filtered through the half-closed curtains, drawing strange patterns on the wall. Ashley stretched, feeling a strange lightness. For the first time in a long time, she felt free. An unusual silence reigned in the apartment. Ashley put on her robe and carefully went out of the bedroom. The living room was empty. The sofa was neatly made, the cushion fluffed. Strange, she thought as she headed for the kitchen. Opening the door, Ashley froze on the threshold. On the table was a large vase of red roses. Beside it, a box of chocolates and a note. Mark was nowhere to be found. Cautiously, she approached the table and took the paper. In neat, slightly clumsy handwriting, it was written, "Forgive me, you're right. I acted like an idiot. I love you and I want to fix everything. Give me one last chance. I'll be back this evening. We'll talk calmly." Ashley sank slowly into the chair, unable to take her eyes off the note. A familiar feeling enveloped her. How many times had this happened already? A fight, accusations, then flowers, apologies, promises. She set the note aside and went to the window. The usual city landscape, grey buildings, snow-covered trees, hurrying passers-by. Everything was the same as always. But something had changed inside Ashley, as if the fuse responsible for endless patience and forgiveness had finally burned out. Determined, she returned to the table, took the vase with the flowers, and threw them in the trash. The chocolates went into the trash too. She tore the note into tiny pieces. No more chances, no more starting over. They had started over so many times, and each time everything ended the same way. Accusations, yelling, threats. Ashley took out her phone and dialed a number. "Hi Cheryl, it's Ashley." Her voice trembled slightly with anxiety. "Listen, I need your help. I've decided to leave Mark." "Finally!" Cheryl exclaimed, with such enthusiasm that Ashley couldn't help but smile. "Honestly, I didn't think this day would ever come. What should I do?" "Can you come over around 5? He's coming back this evening and I want to change the locks before he gets here." "Locks?" Her friend's voice was filled with approval. "Wow, you're serious. I'll be there at 5. And I'll bring a locksmith. My brother works in that field now." After hanging up, Ashley felt a surge of energy. She took a quick shower, got dressed, and began to clean. The broken cup, the discarded flowers, the torn note, all of it symbolized the end of her old life. Now she had to tidy up not just the apartment, but her thoughts as well. At noon, she called her lawyer, another person she had stopped talking to because of Mark's jealousy. "Kimberly, hi, it's Ashley Cooper. Do you remember me?" "Ashley, of course I remember you." Kimberly's voice, a seasoned family lawyer, sounded warm and confident. "What's going on?" "I want to file for divorce and—" Ashley hesitated. "Maybe get a restraining order." There was a brief pause on the line. "Did he lay a hand on you?" The lawyer's tone became professionally dry. "No, not exactly." "Come to my office today, around 3. Does that work for you? We'll discuss the details and create a plan of action." "Yes, thank you." Hanging up the phone, Ashley felt the heaviness lift from her shoulders. She wasn't alone anymore. She had support, friends, specialists who would help her get out of this nightmare. She looked at the clock. She realized she had to hurry. There wasn't much time left before her appointment with the lawyer, and she still had to gather all the necessary documents. At 3 in the afternoon, Ashley sat in Kimberly's comfortable office, telling her story. With every word, she felt lighter, as if a heavy weight was gradually fading away. "So the apartment is entirely yours." Kimberly took notes in her notebook. "That's good. What about shared assets? Is the car in his name? The lake house too?" Ashley shrugged. Honestly, I don't need anything. I just want my freedom. The lawyer looked up and observed her intently over her glasses. But you shouldn't give up what is rightfully yours by law, especially considering the emotional damages you've suffered in this marriage. Ashley shook her head. I earn enough. I just want it all to be over quickly and without any more drama. Fine, Kimberly nodded, but we will definitely get that restraining order. Ashley left the lawyer's office with a lighter heart. The pain still lingered, but she already felt a newfound confidence in her recovery. When she got home, Cheryl was already waiting for her at the building's entrance along with her brother, a strong guy in work overalls. Ashley! Cheryl ran to hug her friend. I'm so glad to see you. Me too. Ashley felt tears well up in her eyes. How much time had she lost due to stupid prohibitions and jealousy? Cheryl introduced the guy. He'll change the locks in half an hour. The neighbours won't even notice. Justin nodded modestly. We'll do it right. I brought new high-quality locks. Once they were up in the apartment, they got to work immediately. While Justin took care of the door, Ashley and Cheryl packed Mark's belongings. Are you sure he won't be back before then? Cheryl asked, folding shirts to put in the suitcase. I'm sure. Ashley hugged a hot cup in her hands. Mark isn't used to losing. To him, my leaving is a personal defeat, a blow to his ego. The doorbell rang exactly at 7, a long, insistent ring. Mark always rang like that when he was annoyed. Ashley and Cheryl exchanged looks. I'll get it, Ashley said with determination, and walked to the door. Through the peephole, she saw Mark. He stood impatiently, shifting from foot to foot, a bouquet of lilies in his hands, her favourite flowers. Ashley, open up. I know you're home. His voice sounded overly cheerful. I have a surprise for you. Taking a deep breath, Ashley opened the door but left the chain on. Through the small gap, she could see her husband's surprised face. What? He began. Ashley, open it all the way. No, Mark, she replied calmly. We already discussed this yesterday. I'm filing for divorce. Mark's face twisted in surprise, then quickly darkened with anger. He stared at the door chain as if he could melt the metal with his gaze. Are you kidding me? After my apologies? After the flowers? He waved the bouquet in front of the door's gap. I'm not kidding, Ashley said firmly. Your things are packed. They're in boxes in the hallway. I'm going to hand them to you now. What the hell? His voice rose to a shout. Open this damn door immediately. He pushed hard against the door. The chain tensed. Ashley felt her heart pounding in her throat, but there was no turning back. If you keep pushing, I'll call the police, she said, trying to sound calm. I have a restraining order. That was a small lie. The restraining order wasn't ready yet, but it was expected to be issued in the next few days. However, those words had an effect. Mark backed away from the door. A restraining order? He asked with genuine surprise in his voice. Are you crazy? What did I do to you? Ashley smiled bitterly. 3 years of psychological abuse, Mark. 3 years of manipulation, control, and humiliation. That's enough. From the depths of the apartment, Cheryl appeared and stood next to Ashley. Hello, Mark, she said coolly. Mark's eyes widened in astonishment, then narrowed to slits. Ah, I see now. Yes, Cheryl, you turned my wife against me. You and your feminist ideas. No one turned me against you, Ashley responded wearily. I decided this on my own. I'm tired of living in fear, of having to justify and apologize for things I didn't do. She nodded to Cheryl, who brought her the first box with Mark's belongings. Here you go. Ashley handed him the box through the small gap. We'll get the rest out in a minute. Mark took the box automatically, but his gaze remained fixed on Ashley's face. For the first time, she saw something like confusion and fear in his eyes. Ashley, let's talk. His tone suddenly became pleading. I understand. I was wrong. Let's talk, just you and me, without any strangers. He shot a disdainful look at Cheryl. No, Ashley shook her head. There will be no more talks. I'm tired of this cycle, the argument, the reconciliation, the honeymoon phase, the new argument. They're unhealthy relationships, Mark. What the hell do you mean, violence? He got angry again. "I haven't even touched you with a finger in all these years." "Violence isn't just physical," Ashley replied calmly. "Wait, we'll get the rest of your things out now." Together, Ashley and Cheryl handed the boxes and suitcases to a stunned Mark, who piled them up against the wall in the hallway. "And the keys?" he asked when they handed him the last suitcase. "How am I supposed to get the rest of my stuff?" "I'll bring the rest myself or have my lawyer Kimberly send it to you," Ashley replied. "You won't need the keys. I changed the locks." Mark's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in rage. "You have no right. This house is also mine. I'm going to sue you." "Sue me," Ashley nodded calmly. "Just keep this in mind. The apartment is in my name. I inherited it before the marriage. It's not community property. And recordings of your threats and witness accounts of emotional abuse are strong arguments in court." Mark looked at her with such astonishment, as if he were facing an alien. He was used to her gentleness, her submission. This new, self-confident woman was a complete stranger to him. "You'll regret this," he finally snarled. "You'll regret it a lot." "Goodbye, Mark." Ashley began to close the door. "All future communication will be through our lawyers." "Wait." He put his foot in the door to stop it from closing. "What about? What about all our plans? The trips, the kids, the house outside the city?" For a moment, Ashley felt a pang of regret. At some point, they really did have dreams and plans. At some point, they loved each other, or so it seemed to her. "All of that is in the past," she said softly. "You destroyed it yourself with your jealousy and your control." Mark pulled his foot back and the door closed. Ashley heard him exhale loudly. Then came the sound of a thud. He'd probably kicked the wall in frustration. Then came the sound of his footsteps and the dull thuds of boxes being moved. "How are you?" Cheryl put her arms around her friend's shoulders. "I don't know," Ashley admitted honestly. "It's weird. It's like being empty and free at the same time." They went into the kitchen, where Cheryl poured the cooled tea into mugs. "You know what's the worst part?" Ashley looked out the window, where the evening shadows were falling. "It's that I really loved him. At the beginning of our relationship, he was completely different." "I know," Cheryl nodded. "Abusers are always like that at first. Otherwise, no one would get involved with them. They show their true nature little by little when the victim is already deeply attached." "Victim?" Ashley frowned. "I hate that word. I don't want to see myself as a victim." "And you're not a victim." Cheryl squeezed her hand. "You're a survivor. How many women live for years, decades in those relationships, afraid to leave? And you found the strength to break that cycle." The doorbell rang again, this time briefly and hesitantly. The friends looked at each other. "Is it him?" Cheryl whispered. Ashley cautiously approached the door and looked through the peephole. On the other side was not Mark, but an older neighbour from the floor below. The night passed quietly, although Ashley woke up several times at the slightest noise, listening intently, wondering if Mark had returned. But by morning, fear had given way to a strange sense of calm. She woke up with the feeling that a new chapter in her life was beginning. During breakfast, Cheryl helped her draft a plan of action for the next few days, retrieve her remaining things from Mark's office, change the passwords on all accounts, notify the bank about potential problems with the joint account, and file the official divorce petition. "You'll make it," Cheryl said confidently. When it was time for her to leave, the hardest part was already over. Left alone, Ashley stood by the window for a long time, watching life on the street below. For the first time in a long time, she felt like the master of her own destiny. Decidedly, she dialed her mother, Catherine's number, another person she needed to fix things with. "I'm leaving, Mark. In fact, I've already left." What happened to us? Ashley thought, looking at a photo. When did love turn into obsession? When did care transform into control? When did trust turn into suspicion? She carefully placed the photo in the dresser drawer. It's not worth it to throw away the past. You have to learn lessons from it and move on. The day passed quickly with errands. Ashley went to the office where she worked as a designer, explained the situation to her boss, and asked for a few days off. Then she met with her lawyer, signing the necessary documents for the divorce process. Kimberly reassured her, assuring her that everything would work out, especially if Mark didn't cause problems. "And if he does?" Ashley asked. "Then we'll be ready for a long battle," the lawyer replied with determination. "We have evidence of emotional abuse, testimonials. Don't worry, I've won much more difficult cases." In the evening, her mother arrived. Seeing her daughter, Catherine hugged her tightly. "You are so brave. I am so proud of you." "Do you know what's the scariest part?" Ashley looked up at her mother. "I believed until the very end that I could fix everything, that if I was a good enough wife, patient and understanding enough, he would change." "They don't change," Catherine shook her head. "I've seen dozens of stories like that. From my work at the crisis centre, I know that without serious therapy, abusers don't change and often don't even acknowledge the problem." The sound of the phone interrupted their conversation. Ashley looked at the screen and frowned. It was Mark's number. "Don't take it," her mother advised. "All contact through your lawyer." "You're right," Ashley nodded and declined the call. A minute later, the phone rang again. A message came through. "I know you're home. We need to talk. It's important. If you don't open up, I'll call all night." "See?" Ashley said with a bitter smile. "Even now he's trying to control, to pressure, to manipulate. Block his number," Catherine advised. Ashley followed her mother's advice, but a few minutes later, another message arrived from an unknown number. "You think you can get rid of me so easily? We'll talk, whether you like it or not." "My God," Ashley whispered, showing her mother the phone. "He's not going to stop." "Look," Catherine said with determination, "save these messages. They are direct threats. They will help you get a restraining order. And now call your lawyer. Let her know what's going on." Kimberly, upon hearing from Ashley, advised her not to respond to the messages and promised to speed up the process of getting the restraining order. "What if he comes here?" Ashley asked. "Don't open the door. If he tries to force it, call the police," the lawyer replied. "And record everything on your phone. Any violation of boundaries will be used against him in court." Ashley spent the rest of the night nervously waiting, jumping at every noise in the hallway. But Mark never appeared. The next afternoon, her lawyer called. "What happened?" Ashley felt her heart sink. "Mark has filed a countersuit," the lawyer informed her. "He's asking for the division of assets, including the apartment. He claims he has invested a significant amount of money in repairs and maintenance of the home, so he is entitled to compensation." "That's insane," Ashley exclaimed. "The apartment was willed to me before the marriage." "Exactly," Kimberly nodded. "Legally, his position is weak, but he's clearly up for a long fight. There's something else. He's hired Arnold." Ashley gasped. Arnold was known as a ruthless lawyer who specialized in dirty divorces. "They're going to focus on your allegedly immoral behavior," Kimberly continued. "Get ready for them to dig up everything. Every message you've sent, every social outing, every man you've ever spoken to." After hanging up, Ashley sank exhausted into a chair. Her mother watched her, worried. "What else happened?" Catherine asked. "He wants to take the apartment from me," Ashley replied in a flat voice. "He's hired the worst lawyer. He wants to drag my name through the mud." "Let him try," her mother said with determination. "He won't succeed. The apartment's documents are in order. The inheritance was before the marriage. And as for your reputation, you have nothing to be ashamed of." Ashley smiled bitterly. "You don't understand, Mum. Mark can twist any situation. A friendly hug will become an affair. A business dinner will be a romantic encounter. And Arnold will make the witnesses say whatever he wants." The phone rang again, this time an unknown number. Ashley answered cautiously. "Hello?" "Ashley Cooper?" an official male voice asked. "This is Detective Miller from the Police Financial Crimes Unit." Ashley held her breath. "Yes, this is she murmured, giving her mother a frightened look. "You need to come in for questioning in a large-scale fraud case. The case is related to the activities of the company where you work as a designer." "Fraud?" a confused Ashley asked. "I'm just a designer. I don't have access to the company's finances." Nevertheless, your signature is on several documents, the detective said dryly. I'll be waiting for you tomorrow at 10 a.m. at our precinct. Here's the address. When Ashley hung up the phone, her hands were shaking. It's Mark, she whispered. It's his doing. He always threatened me that if I left him, he'd destroy my career. Catherine went to her daughter with determination. Then call your lawyer immediately and then your boss. We need to figure out what's going on. The next 2 hours Ashley spent on the phone. First, a long conversation with Kimberly, who promised to find out the details of the case, then a call to the company director, Gregory, who was equally shocked. There's no fraud. All our documents are in order. Our reports are transparent. This must be a mistake, or... He hesitated. Or someone's revenge, Ashley finished for him. Your husband? Gregory didn't ask, he stated. I heard you're separating. And you know what's strange? Yesterday, someone came to do an audit. They specifically asked about the projects you worked on. My God, Ashley sighed. He's going to destroy me. Don't worry, the director said confidently. We'll provide you with the best corporate lawyer. There's no fraud in your projects. That's easy to prove. Then she had a conversation with Cheryl. Oh my God, Ashley groaned. Mark really started a war. He sent that detective flying, Cheryl said indignantly. But he hinted that he would talk to acquaintances, colleagues, neighbours. Thank you, Ashley said softly. Please let the other friends know. Who knows what else he'll do? The night passed restlessly. Ashley would fall into a deep sleep, then wake up at the slightest noise. In front of her eyes was Mark's face, not distorted by anger as it had been lately, but the one she had loved. Open, with a warm smile and a loving gaze. How can a person change so much, she thought, staring at the ceiling. Or was he always like this and just hid his true nature well? In the morning, Ashley went to the police accompanied by the corporate lawyer. The questioning lasted 3 hours. The detective, an older, tired man with an indifferent gaze, asked the same questions over and over, trying to catch her in contradictions. Did you personally approve the budget with the client? The detective asked for the 3rd time. Yes, I confirm it, Ashley answered patiently. The budget was approved in stages. After each stage, the client signed the work acceptance form. But the client claims that the signatures on some documents are forged, the detective said, pushing a folder of papers toward her. The lawyer immediately intervened. This is a serious accusation. In that case, we request a forensic handwriting analysis and want to meet personally with the plaintiff. The detective frowned. The analysis will be ordered by the court if the case gets there, and the plaintiff is not obligated to meet with you. Strange, the lawyer noted. Normally, plaintiffs are interested in compensation for damages and are willing to cooperate. But here, it seems the goal isn't compensation, but to cause problems for a specific person. I am investigating the facts, the detective said. Leaving the police, Ashley felt like a squeezed lemon. She could barely stand on her feet. Her head was throbbing with pain. Don't worry so much, the lawyer reassured her. This case is completely empty. In a week, it will be closed due to lack of evidence. A week, Ashley repeated. And what will Mark come up with during that week? She got the answer to that question when she returned home. Catherine met her with a worried expression. The bank called, she said. They said that all your accounts are frozen by court order as part of a temporary injunction. Frozen? Ashley didn't understand. What injunction? They didn't go into details. They asked me to call you. Her mother handed her a piece of paper with a phone number. The call to the bank clarified the situation. He had filed a civil lawsuit and managed to get all of Ashley's accounts frozen until the case was resolved in court. But that's my personal money, Ashley exclaimed. The money I earned before and during our marriage. The court will decide what is yours and what is shared, the bank employee replied indifferently. In the meantime, all transactions in the accounts are suspended. Desperate, Ashley called Kimberly. That's impossible, the lawyer exclaimed, indignant. He can't freeze your salary accounts. At most, he could freeze joint deposits if there are any. Get me the statements from all your accounts, your work history, and certificates of income from before the marriage. We'll file an appeal tomorrow. But Ashley already understood Mark's strategy. He didn't expect to win all these cases. His goal was to wear her down, to make her spend her energy, time, and money on endless lawsuits, expert testimonies, and verifications. He wanted to make her regret her decision. "I won't give up," she said, looking out the window at the approaching evening, "no matter what it takes." Catherine hugged her shoulders. "Of course you won't give up. You're strong, and I'll be by your side. I'll help you in every way I can, and your friends will support you." The next 2 weeks turned into a real nightmare. Endless court hearings, meetings with lawyers, gathering documents and evidence. Mark used all his connections and resources to make his ex-wife's life difficult. To make matters worse, someone started spreading rumors in professional circles that Ashley forged budgets and cheated her clients. Several contractors decided to stop working with her, and her director had to pull her from projects until the facts were cleared up. "I believe in your innocence," Gregory said, "but we need to wait until the charges are officially dropped. You understand? The company's reputation." Ashley understood, but that didn't make her feel better. Without a job, with her accounts frozen and trapped in endless legal battles, she began to doubt her decision. Maybe it would have been easier to put up with his outbursts. That treacherous thought crossed her mind. But then she remembered the constant fear, the humiliation, the control, and her determination returned. One of those particularly hard days, when another hearing was postponed, a clear tactic to delay the process, Ashley returned home and collapsed onto the couch. She was completely exhausted. "You know what this situation reminds me of?" her mother suddenly asked. "What?" Ashley asked. "Your grandmother, Sarah, when your grandpa started drinking and hitting her. Everyone said, 'Just suffer, Sarah. It's your cross to bear. Don't bring shame to the family with a divorce.' And she put up with it for 15 long years. And then she packed her things, took her 3-year-old daughter, and left." "I didn't know that story," Ashley said. "Grandma didn't usually talk about it," Catherine explained. "But do you know what she told me before she died?" "What?" Ashley asked. "I only regret one thing, that I didn't leave sooner. I wasted 15 years of my life with someone who didn't deserve a single day." Ashley was silent, taking in what she had just heard. The image of her grandmother, a strong and independent woman who had left her this apartment, took on new meaning. "And there's something else," her mother continued. "Your grandpa tried to get her back. He threatened her, begged her, promised her the world. When he realized he wouldn't succeed, he started seeking revenge. He wrote complaints about her work, spread rumors, turned the neighbors against her. Grandma endured everything, and you know how it all ended." Ashley shook her head. "He drank himself to death, completely alone. And Grandma met a good man, your second grandpa. She lived happily with him for 20 years. So, my girl," Catherine squeezed her daughter's hand, "don't give up. The storm always passes." The story of her grandmother gave Ashley new strength. "If she could do it, I can too," she thought as she prepared for the next court hearing. And then something unexpected happened on the eve of the decisive hearing for the asset division case. "They want to meet," Kimberly informed her. "Unofficially, without a record. They say they have a friendly settlement proposal." "It's a trap," Ashley said, her guard up. "It could be," the lawyer nodded, "but the meeting will be in my office with me present. There's no risk." The meeting took place the next day. Mark came alone, without his famous lawyer. He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes, almost like Ashley's. "I want to end this," he said bluntly, looking not at Ashley, but at some distant point. "I'm withdrawing all lawsuits. I'll stop the harassment. I'll sign any documents for the divorce." Ashley and Kimberly exchanged suspicious glances. "In exchange for what?" the lawyer asked directly. Mark gave a sad smile. "Nothing in exchange for anything. I'm just tired, and I've realized something." For the first time in the meeting, he looked directly at Ashley. "I thought I could make you come back, or at least get revenge for what you did to destroy my life. But now I see that I destroyed everything myself and am still destroying it. Ashley watched this broken man, and with astonishment, she realized she no longer felt hatred or fear, only weariness and a strange sense of emptiness. "Why now?" she asked. "What changed?" Mark was silent for a while, as if searching for the words. "Yesterday I visited my mother in the hospital. She told me she's ashamed of me, that I've become a copy of my father, the same man she was afraid of 20 years ago. It was a wake-up call." Kimberly studied the documents carefully, nodding from time to time. "Everything is in order," she finally said. "If we file these papers today, everything will be officially resolved in 2 weeks." Mark nodded and stood up. "I'd like to talk to Ashley alone," he added, seeing the lawyer's cautious gaze. "Just 5 minutes." Kimberly looked at Ashley questioningly, but she nodded. "It's fine, I can handle it." When the lawyer left, Mark sat back in the chair. He remained silent for a while, staring out the window, and then said in a low voice, "Forgive me, Ashley. I know it's not enough. I know I've caused you so much pain that no apology will change the situation. Still, I want you to know that I never really wanted to hurt you." Ashley also replied in a low voice, "First with words and control, then with all these lawsuits and accusations." "I know." Mark lowered his head. "I'll live with this knowledge for the rest of my days. I've destroyed the most valuable thing I had." He was silent for a moment and then continued. "I've made an appointment with a psychotherapist. I want to understand why I became this way, why I turned love into obsession. For us, there won't be an us anymore, I understand. For myself, maybe, for someone else in the future." Ashley looked at this broken man and with a sense of wonder understood that she no longer felt either hatred or fear, only tiredness and a strange feeling of emptiness. "I hope you find those answers, Mark," she finally said. "The truth is, you're a good person, just broken somewhere deep inside." He looked up at her, his eyes full of pain. "And could you ever forgive me?" Ashley was silent for a long time, thinking about her answer. "I don't know," she admitted honestly. "Not now. There's too much pain, the wounds are too fresh, but maybe, with time." In the morning, after the housewarming party, Ashley woke up early. Outside, dawn was beginning to unfold, tinting the sky in soft pink hues. She was lying in her newly renovated bedroom, enjoying the calm and peace. Suddenly, the words Mark had once said in a fit of rage came to mind. "Pack your bags and get out." Back then, those words had caused her pain, made her feel insignificant, unnecessary. Now, however, they only brought a sad smile. "I didn't leave," Ashley thought. "You left my life, and I am finally free." She got out of bed and went to the window. The city was waking up, filling with life. Somewhere among those streets and buildings was her new path, still unknown, but full of possibilities. Ashley smiled at her reflection in the glass. The woman looking back at her had changed this past year. She had become stronger, wiser, more self-confident. She had gone through the pain, but she had come out victorious, to the first day of a new life, she said to herself.